feel free to just
Yep, I'll just let them in.
pop them in as we go. Well, welcome everybody. I'm going to get started. It's 8 a.m., so we're going to stay on time here. I'm excited to see people joining in live. We also assume a lot of people will be coming in as a recording later. So for this part, we have it set that you can chat in the chat window, but we have it set that you cannot come off of mute, and your video is not an option in there also. So hopefully that won't become a problem. And to get us started off, I'm Eileen Heller. Bill Pulte's joining me in, and he's going to be monitoring the chat. So any questions you might have throughout, feel free to ask him in that chat window. And then the other thing I would like you to do is in the chat, if you'll share with us your name, your role here at ESU3, and then your favorite AI tool that you use for personal or professional use. And I'll see if I can get that waiting room turned off so we don't have to hear that sound coming in. Okay, I've disabled that waiting room. So for those of you that have just joined in, feel free to share in the chat your name, your role, your favorite AI tool that you like to use for personal or professional use. Yes, Jennifer, Alexa counts for sure. Welcome in. Head into that chat, share your name, your role, your favorite AI tool that you like to use, whether it's your professional or personal use. Maybe this will give you some ideas of other areas besides Gemini to go check out. Feel free to continue sharing that. What I'm going to share out to all of you is our slide deck so that you have a copy of it for later if you would like to have it. I also have the bit.ly included on our slideshow for today if you want to use that. But I'm going to pop that in the chat now so that you have it and is accessible. You can save that to your own Google account. You can make a copy of it, and then I'll have that bit.ly in the slide deck at the end also. But welcome in. Today's outcomes, first of all, is that you'll understand how to use Gemini AI chat and GEMS for efficiency and productivity in your work role, knowing that this 45-minute webinar is not going to make you an expert at it. It's just a basic understanding of what's available and out there for you. And the agenda that we're going to be going through is I'm going to share some of the licensing features, and then I'll do a demonstration of the chat feature within Gemini, then the GEMS feature within Gemini. With the amount of time that we have, I did want to go into a little bit of a teacher focus in case there's any teachers on the call from Brook Valley that want to see some of those or watching the recording. There's some integrated pieces within Google Classroom with Gemini, and then I'll share some resources. There's also a couple extra bonus features within Gemini that if we have the time, I'll share those during that bonus time, but I want to really get into the chat and the GEMS piece first of all. The other thing is that the way that we'll be going through this, the format is demonstration with the idea that you'll watch, but if maybe you have multiple screens, you could attempt to try some of it with me. But with the webinar format, it's not going to be as hands-on as if we were in person. So the idea is that I will send out the recording after this so that you can fast forward, rewind, watch pieces over again. Feel free to grab whatever note-taking method you like to have so that you can remind yourself to go back and try something that I show you today that might be something that is helpful. So to get us started, let's take a look at what you have at your fingertips with Google AI at ESU3. All employees have the licensing of Google Education Fundamentals. And with that license, you have Gemini AI as something that you can utilize. When I say it's the free version, it's the free version applied to your employee account. And then there's optional add-ons that you would have to ask your supervisor for additional AI tools, if that's something in the future that you felt was really important for your role. And there, you also have Notebook LM, and that's going to be our webinar later in September that we'll cover. The important thing around this is understanding, why would I choose Gemini over my other favorite chat tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, any of them that you've already been using? You are allowed to continue using those. The one thing that's really nice about Gemini is that it allows you to have an enterprise grade data protection. And essentially what that is going to mean is when you're putting in documents, adding in attachments, typing in information, it is not going to be training the AI models. When I go out and use Perplexity or ChatGPT, what I'm typing in there or attaching is helping support their AI models getting smarter and smarter. And what's nice is that that's going to be compliant with the different types of areas that we need. If we're adding in information, maybe it's survey data from after a workshop and it has people's names in it. I wouldn't want to put that into ChatGPT or Perplexity, but I could put that into Gemini. Now, I might even go a little bit further and take off the column of names before I put it in there in Gemini, but I at least know it's protected within Gemini and it's not training an AI model. And Bill, feel free to expand on that in any way. I know you have a deeper knowledge of that.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is that there are ways to make like a Claude or a ChatGPT compliant from there, but they do cost money. And so at this point, we have said our focus is going to be on Gemini because it comes with those protections come with the licensing we already have.
Thank you. And that kind of brings me back. We have a technology integration committee here at ESU3 that started looking at Gemini last November. And what I have noticed in our time of looking at it, it has really caught up to some of the other models. I wasn't as impressed with it in November, but I'm definitely impressed with it now. So let's get started with the first thing. This is Gemini Chat. And this slide here is really for later when you come back to it. I have a video tutorial linked in there. And just a little bit about why you might use the chat before I go into the demo is that it is great for brainstorming, drafting, and synthesizing information similar to what you might do in other AI tools. It also keeps adding in additional tools. There's now a guided learning piece in there where you can say, I want to learn this, but I don't want you just to give me the answers. And it will guide you through and prompt you through some of the problems and questions and help you in that. I'm going to demonstrate today some portion called Canvas. This is not the same as the online system platform that people use for learning. This Canvas gives you prototypes of infographics and timelines and other things about what it might look like, and it does it through coding. And then it will allow you to create images, and what's great is you can even add text to the images. And just yesterday in my account, it showed up where I can start editing my own images with the help of Gemini. And then another feature is that it will share directly to your Google Docs and your Gmail when you connect it. I do have a link down here to some prompt samples that I'm going to be using. And so when you go back to practice this, if you want to use my prompt samples or see some of the prompt samples that I used demonstrated today, that link will take you in there. So what I'm going to do is move over now to Google Gemini, but let me show you how to find it first. So one way that you can find it is if you're in your Gmail account or Google Drive, you can come over to the apps launcher over in the top right corner. And in that apps launcher, you're going to find Gemini. And when you open up Gemini, it will open up to your very first potential chat. Let me show you around some of the interface first. Over here on the far left side is where it will collapse the menu or open it up. you can start a new chat. It's ready for me to start that new chat. It also shows me all of the chats that I've recently been working through. It also shows me my gems, and we'll be talking about gems later. Something to note is that with this version, there are 2 models that you can use. So yours will automatically be on Flash, and that's their free version. And they also have a pro reasoning version that they'll let you check out. And when I check that, it switches over to pro. And the difference between those, I'll show you in an example here in a little bit. So I'm going to use just one basic one and entered in just in case if you're newer to AI, you've never seen that before. So inside this basic chat, I'm going to say I have an upcoming workshop that's an hour long on increasing student engagement in secondary classrooms. And I want Gemini to help me come up with some potential outcomes and success criteria and give me a general outline. So you could type in something for your work that you have coming up that you would like to try. And before I do anything with the adding files or the additional tools, I'm going to submit that and just see as it comes in. It's going to start using its large language learning model, and it's going to start using predictions based off of everything that's out there on the internet and in its large language learning model to come up with its best ideas for this based on the context that I gave it. So what you'll notice is what it's opened up is its canvas. And that canvas does not always open up, but in this case, it decided to show me a potential outline of what this might look like. And you'll notice it has some features similar to what you would maybe see in Google Docs. Over on the left side, I can see that it's outlined that this draft of a plan might be something that would support me. So as I look through this, I can see it's given me my potential outcomes, my success criteria, an outline with 60 minutes because I gave it 1 hour. And then I can continue on the left side here, prompting it. One thing I'll point out here is down here, it's now highlighted as canvas. It chose to push me into a canvas to show me what this might look like. I'm going to prompt it one more thing. I would like to include some website resources in this workshop. Provide 2 to 3 from reputable educational resources. And so you can continue adding to it. And that's the key around prompting is the first time when you prompt, it's going to give you some ideas, but then it's going to allow you to continue adding into it. Now, the next step for this that I want to demonstrate is when you're in the canvas across on the top right side, there is a create button that would allow you to create different things based off of whatever it's constructed for you. So if I wanted an infographic for this workshop, it's going to take the information that it gave me and it's going to construct a prototype. So when it creates this infographic, it might look really beautiful, but at this time, the prototype cannot be something that I just print out easily. I would have to take screenshots of it. It's doing the coding to create it. So a prototype is not usable in the sense that I can't just automatically start using it for my workshop. And what it's prototyping right now is really the draft of that timeline. So the timeline, it might help me understand it a little bit better, but it's really not going to help me in the workshop. So the infographic is supportive for me. I could take screenshots of it and put it into a Google Doc, but it's taking my idea for this and giving me a prototype. But I couldn't just print this out. I can't go in and edit this. It's really just to help make it a little bit more accessible for me to understand it. So let's go into another example and I'll continue to show you a few more features. In this next chat that I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the difference between why you might want to use Flash and why you might want to use reasoning. In this one, I'm also going to show you and demonstrate how you can add attachments and you can do audio overviews. So I have my new chat ready. And in this one, I want it to review an attached document that I have. It's a Nebraska MTSS PDF that's over 40 pages long. I wanted to synthesize the key concepts that would be important for my role as a principal of a K-5 building. So to do this in Google Gemini, you can prompt it for what you want. And then down here are some add file features. So I can upload the file. I'm also going to demonstrate how you can connect this to your Google Drive. And when you connect it to your Google Drive, you can pull documents straight from your drive. In this instance, I'm going to upload my Nebraska MTSS framework. It's attached, and you do want to make sure that it completely attaches. If you see it spinning, it hasn't quite completely attached. And so I can send that in, and it's going to read that PDF. It's going to use the large language learning model that it has in connection to that PDF, and it's going to predict what a K-5 building principal might find as the key core concepts that it would need to know. So inside this, it's analyzing it. It's giving me some of the core beliefs, the infrastructure. It's giving me information. It's noting also on these links exactly which page it's pulling these facts from so that I could get back into that. Which that's really nice. It's giving me a lot of information that I've wanted to understand. Now I'm going to do that same prompt, but show you a couple other features. This time I'm going to go into the reasoning piece. And sometimes when you want to go into reasoning versus the other one is if you wanted to start helping you with some brainstorming and problem solving, it will do that in the fast model, but it will go deeper when you select the reasoning model for it. So in this one, I'm going to attach the file, and it's attached. Now notice down below, it also says, would you like me to generate an audio overview for this? And when I generate an audio overview, it's going to construct a podcast between two characters where I can listen to an overview of that PDF. This is making it accessible for me so that if I don't maybe have the time to read through 40 pages of the framework, maybe a 5-minute overview is all that I have time for. And so we'll come back and we'll take a look at this once that audio overview is done. In the meantime, with that attachment, I'm going to paste in my original prompt. I want it to kind of pull out those key concepts for me. I believe it will look at that Nebraska framework because it's attached in the conversation. If I needed to, I could always reattach it or add additional files to it. Oops, I'm going to say no to this. I don't want to cancel this. And I'm going to come over and show you, I've already done this same one in here, and I'll show you what it gave me. So I first asked it for it to do the overview with the prompt for the K-5 building, and it provides me its core philosophy, some important things around the role to understand. But what it also allowed me to do in the reasoning model is I asked it to build an infographic of what this might look like to help me better understand it. And I also asked for it to provide for me a timeline if I was a K-5 principal. So if I want to go back into that infographic, I can click back in my conversation and see the infographic that it constructed to help me. A reminder, this is a prototype. I could take screenshots of it, but when I click on share and copy contents, it just grabs the text. It doesn't make it look really nice and visual like it does here. And then I next asked it to construct a timeline for me. And so in my conversation, I can open up that timeline. And then the feature that I really like with Gemini is I can have it set up so that I can share this to a Google Doc. So this timeline in the prototype doesn't look really amazing right here, but tables and text will move over into a Google Doc. So in this little tiny share and export, I can select to export it to Docs, and it will construct a Google Doc based off of that timeline that it provided for me. It's a lot more accessible and easier to read here. Notice that there are some coding aspects like these little breaks But what I can do is I can now edit this document. I can change it to the way I want it to read, take out things that don't make sense for me, but it makes nice visual tabs over on the left side. And it gives you a starting point. If you were brand new to MTSS as a principal, a starting point about how you might implement this out. So you saw me take that into Google Docs. You also saw the area that when you make a new chat where you can add from Google Drive. So let me show you how you get that set up on your Gemini settings. In Gemini, down at the far left bottom, there's the settings and help. And then inside there, you'll select the apps. Inside the apps, it's explaining to me that I can connect different things. I'll dismiss that. And then down here, note that I have my Google Workspace turned on and connected. Yours by default will not be turned on. So you'll need to go into the settings and turn that on. And what that allows you to do is you can pull content from things like your Google Drive, but you can also push content. So if you ask it to construct an email, maybe to somebody as a response, and you want to do it in here, then you can send it to Gmail. It won't send the email. It will just open up the Gmail platform and allow you to edit it and then send it directly from there. Similar to how I set my Google Doc there. The other ones that they have in here, some travel apps that you can attach to. And then also YouTube is a newer one that you can attach to. Later in this webinar, if we have time, I'll show you a little bit about what it will do with a YouTube video. So looking back, let's go in a little bit more into the chat. I want to show you a couple more features, and then I'll take any questions that might be coming through the chat or give you a moment to take down some notes or try a couple things yourselves. So the other area that I want to show you that's available to you inside the tools, you have your guided learning where you can create images, and then you can also use that canvas similar to how it constructed the timeline in the infographic. So in my next example prompt here, I'm going to ask for it. I've already demonstrated how to do an infographic, but I'm going to ask for it to construct an image that shows a computer that has AI tools coming out of it and has the word resources on it. So what I like to do this for is anytime I'm creating my slide decks for workshops, sometimes I want a very specific image that I want it to include on there. So I can prompt it and say, create that image, and it will use its context that I gave it. And what I've really enjoyed is that it will put on the words that I ask for it to, and typically it spells it correctly. Now, every once in a while, I'll run into where it doesn't spell something right. For example, I was trying to add my name to a picture, and it kept spelling my first name wrong, and I kept asking for it to refine it. So there's the image that it created. I really like that, but I could also keep asking it for more. I could say, revise, so it is a laptop, not a desktop computer. And then it would make those revisions for me. While it's making those revisions up above in this one, you can see that I can download a full size of that. I can also come down here and say, yes, that's a good response or a bad response. That helps inform Gemini's model. I typically leave that alone. I can also share this and export it to a doc, or I can pop open a Gmail if I want to include this in an email. I have the option to copy it, and then I can come in here and I can listen to it or report the legal issue with it. One thing about this is the tools down below might change dependent upon what it is that you're working on. So for a picture, it's going to give me my download option at the corner. If it was a table, I'll get one where I can include it in a CSV file, or I can directly take it to Sheets. So depending on what you're asking for it to do, it's going to change what that does for you. So far in Gemini, I've shown you a couple things in this chat: how to do your prompt, how to add your attachments. Inside the tools, there's that guided learning, images, and then you can also go directly into that Canvas feature here If I wanted to say something like construct an infographic that explains the MTSS framework, I can have Canvas turned on. I can upload the file that I want it to reference. Otherwise, it's just going to use anything out there in its large language learning model in the internet, and I can send it in. So as much information as you can give it, the better the response it's going to be. So let's take a minute. I'm going to kind of set my clock for 1 minute. And anybody that has questions, please feel free to ask in the chat, or go ahead and open up Gemini and see if your apps are turned on in your settings, or maybe try a prompt that you want to try before we move on to looking at gems. So that was a minute. Hopefully that gave you a little bit of time to either take some notes or get a little bit of an idea of where you might come back to look. I do want to see if that audio overview is ready for me. So here's that audio overview. I do have a Zoom issue with playing audio right now that I need to get the help desk to give me rights to get audio to play when I do a screen share. But what this is doing is it has provided a 6-minute and 12-second audio overview of that Nebraska MTSS framework PDF. Again, it's making it more accessible for me so that I can understand the framework without having to go through the 40-page paper, but I can also use the Gemini chat to support me through that. We're going to go into the next section of this, into our Gemini chat gems. And I also have a video tutorial on this slide and a little bit of information around this that you can come back to with that slide deck. So the purpose around gems that's slightly different than chat is you would want to use a gem if you find yourself having the same chat over and over and over again, or a similar style. They have some gems already constructed for you that they think people might oftentimes want to use, but you can also customize and construct your own gem. Think of it as a focused assistant for common tasks. And to make it most meaningful, you're going to want to give it a persona, meaning how do you want it to act, a task that you want it to typically do when you use it, the content that you want it to refer to or reference, and then the format of how you would like it to come back. What I'm going to do in my demonstration, though, is I'm going to use Gemini chat to build the instructions for me so that I don't have to do all of the thinking around that. Again, I have my sample prompts, and in the sample prompts document, I'm going to be demonstrating these example prompts. But to help you understand this a little bit, I'm going to go show you one of my gems that I already built. It's my educational grant writer gem. And I wanted it to always do these things. It always wanted, or actually, let me show you the instructions that I gave it. So gems live in a different space than your chat. They live right below it in this gems area. You can see that I have this education grant writer gem. You would not have that. That's specific to me because I created it. And when I click on that, it knows that I want to act like an education grant writer. So it's not going to use its large language learning model in the same way. It's going to be very focused on educational grant writing. And I recently asked it some questions around the Nebraska Multilingual Learning funding opportunities. I said, what grants might be available out there in the state of Nebraska? And it did its search and found some ideas for me. The other thing around this gym is when I construct it, I can go in at any time and edit the instructions that I gave it. So inside the instructions window, you'll see that I gave it a persona of being an expert grant writing consultant and told it what it specialized in. I told it its task was to guide and assist me in every stage of writing and refining a grant proposal. Further down, the context is to provide effective assistance. I'll give it information. And then at the bottom part, the last piece is how I would want it to send back the information, how its format is always going to be clear and well organized and professional, and using headings and subheadings and bold text. Now, it might look like I'm super smart because I put in those instructions. I didn't at all. I went in and asked Gemini to create those instructions for me, and then I copy pasted them into a gem. So that's what I'm going to model for you. I'm going to create a new gem, and this time I want it to act as a professional learning specialist. And I gave it a little more context. I just talked about that I oftentimes need to construct workshops, and I need the outcomes and success criteria and the outline, and I want it aligned to the Learning Forward professional learning standards and universally designed. And I want this bold part right here. I want it to construct the instructions that I can use in a Google Gemini gem and include the persona, task, context, and format. So I'm going to take this. If you were doing this for yourself, you would keep the bolded sentence and you would change the unbolded to what you would want your gem assistant to be doing for you. So I'm going to go into Google Gemini. I'm going to go where it says explore gems. They have some gems already built out here that I could use if any of them worked for me. I can go in and edit my education grant writer gem, but I want to create a new gem. And this one's going to be my professional learning assistant. So to get this started, I need to get the instructions for it. So in a new chat, I'm going to leave this. I'm going to paste in that I want it to build the instructions for me. Once those instructions are done, I'm going to copy them and I'm going to go and put them into my assistant. Now I could highlight from persona down. That's one way that you could copy it. The other way that you can copy it is by using copy response, and it will copy it to the clipboard. I will warn you, when you make a gem and you use that one, it will paste in even that top part where it says, of course, here are the instructions. So it says simply copy paste this text. So I'm just going to wipe out this part until it says persona. So if you do the highlighting, you get exactly what you want. If you do the copy button, it's just a little bit faster, and then you have to take out that top part. So the other thing I can do here is I can attach those professional learning standards if I wanted to, or whatever knowledge it might need to reference each time. And then I could start trying this professional learning specialist right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click save. It says it's created and I can start the chat. So let's say that I'm going about my business a few days later and I'm thinking, okay, I have a new workshop coming up. This one is around student engagement. I need some ideas about what might be a potential. I know I have 90 minutes. I know my audience is secondary teachers. Instead of me prompting right here in the overall Gemini, I'm going to go into my professional learning specialist one, and I'm going to prompt it inside here instead, because it has all the context that I gave it about that I want it to include outcomes, success criteria. I don't have to say that like I did in my very first prompt where I said, give me the outcome, success criteria, and a general outline. Instead, I can just say, I have an upcoming workshop. And because I'm doing it within my gym, I don't have to give it all of the other context because it knows what to return to me because it's using a gym instead. So I'll stop for a moment here as that's running. That is an overview of the gyms. Let's do a minute for you to kind of take a look at the gyms that are either built in, or you can ask a question in the chat, or you can even attempt to go into the sample prompts and try to construct one of your own. That would be pretty fast in a minute to get done. Yes, Violet, I see your question right there. At any time, I can go into the 3 dots next to my gym and click edit. And then I can go in and add that knowledge base in my files. I don't have those professional learning standards off the top of my hand there, but yep, you can go in there and edit. And then over here in the corner is where I'm just going to upload a file just to pretend that's the one I want. And then that update option will pop into there. And then I can update that gem and it will be there. You can go back to the strands that you were in or save. I'm gonna say, okay, I don't want to include those. Okay, so what Kate's asking, is it one constant conversation? You do not have to have it on a continuous conversation. So I asked the last time, what potential multilingual learner funding opportunities are out there in Nebraska. So I could click on this to allow it to show me that same conversation, and I can continue talking to it in that conversation so that I don't have to ask the prompt again. But then I can also ask a completely new prompt right here. So I'm going to say, share with me any funding opportunities specific to esports in Nebraska. So it will send out that one. I'll let it run a little bit. And then I will go away from this chat. And the idea around my grant writer one is that I would have a grant that I was trying to fill out. I would be attaching the application. I would be feeding it information, and it would be supporting me as I'm doing it in ideas of things to include, the wording. The most important thing out of all of this is it's going to lift us, but then we need to use the human side of it. So it's this 80-20 rule that you'll sometimes see what talked about in AI, that it will lift about 80% of the work, but you always want to bring forward your human eye to it, your human context to it. So I'm going to go back to my education writer, Jim. And there's that Nebraska multilingual learner one. Ooh, I'm surprised I don't see the esports one. It might be because I clicked out of it while it was still running. But Kate, my assumption is that you'd be able to see it. Oh yeah, thank you. It's over here in the recent one. And now it appears there, so I can go back and continue talking about it with it. Let's jump over to the slide deck here. We're moving on now. I did want to show for any teachers that might be on the call or watching this as a recording, they have integrated the same Gemini chat features within Google Classroom. I included a slide video tutorial inside there. But as a quick overview, I'm going to go into my Google Classroom, and over here you'll see a feature called Gemini. And this allows you to view Google AI tools specific for educators. that you might utilize to support you in your planning, instructional materials, assessments, supporting students, and administrative tasks. Now I have it filtered out for student support. I can click on all. This is going to look very familiar if you've ever seen Magic School AI or Schools AI. What it's allowing you to do is select tools that might support you as a teacher. Here's a way to look at the different icons. Anytime you see an icon that has this blue diamond, that is going to direct you out to Gemini. So if I want to brainstorm real world examples, when I click on this one, because it has that tool, it's going to pop me out to the Gemini interface. And what it's doing is it has created a gem, a real world gem that it already has all the instructions right here ready to go for me. So what I'm going to do is give it some information. So I'm going to pretend, I'm going to use an example from one of my schools I was at. Construct real world examples of 3-digit by 2-digit multiplication for my fourth graders. It's using that Gemini interface. It integrated it into Google Classroom just to have it at the fingertips of the teachers. Now, back on Google Classroom, you will see that there's different icons. I'll talk about those. Let's see, make sure the examples are perfect fit. So it's going to prompt me more. Could you tell me a bit more about how you envision them using them in your lesson? For example, will they be a quick warm-up as part of a math worksheet? It will be a spiral review and scaffolding. So provide some 2-digit by 2-digit and then add on for difficulty. So as an assistant, it's just going to keep prompting me for more information until it gets what it feels like it needs. Is there anything else I should know? I'm ready to draft. So no, draft, please. I could say like, yeah, I include things like video games and Nebraska themes, and my students are really into Pokemon or gymnastics, and it will make some of those problems more geared towards that. So it's providing some ideas here that I could possibly use. I can also share and export that out to Google Docs. Let's go in back over there and explain a little bit. If it doesn't have that Gemini one, it's going to stay within your Google Classroom interface, and it's going to ask you some more information about it. So the example that I'm going to use on this one is I want to give some student support to my students, and I need to translate some text. And in this translate text, it gives me some automatic languages at the top that might be common, but there's a lot of languages within here that I can utilize. I believe there's 120 languages that Gemini and Google Translate can translate, but I need the text that I'm going to translate. So an area that this might be helpful for is when I'm in my classes and teaching, I'm going to go into my sample class here. Actually, I'm going to go get a different class. And I have some instructions for my students that I want them to do on this article summary. And in that article summary, in the instructions, some of my students are going to have difficulty reading this. And so I'm going to go get that translated using my Gemini tool. Now I could go out to Gemini and ask it to translate this. The idea around this is that it's providing it right here inside my Gemini interface. And I'm going to say I want it in Spanish and translate. And now I have it in translate here where I can copy it. And then I could add that as an additional feature in my directions for my students. The other piece is sometimes if it's not taking you out to Gemini, you can even add it directly to your class. So I could say, go ahead and add this into my class, into my assignment, and then I could export it out as a document. And then with the features of speech to text or text to speech, it would allow them to be able to read it in that manner. With the time that we have here, I'm going to close up with the final pieces here. There's a lot more to explore in Gemini than just that, but today's recording will be sent out to everybody, all ESU3 employees. So I went through a lot of that pretty quick in a demonstration style. So I'm sure you'll want to review it. And then a reminder that we'll be meeting in the same format on September 15th. A feature within Google AI at your fingertips is called Notebook LM. That one is in the afternoon from 3:30 to 4:00 p.m. I'll also record that one and send out the Zoom link the day prior. Some resources to support you. This first video is a really nicely done tutorial video. The first 17 minutes, he demonstrates all of the features for free. And then the paid version, if you're curious what that might look like and what features it has, is at the end of it. And then broken down separately are the same video tutorials from the slides before on GEMS and Google Classroom, and some website links if interested. Prior to you leaving, exit ticket, will you please type in the chat, based on today and your prior knowledge, when considering AI in your role here at ESU3, what are you most excited about?
Eileen, can I mention one thing as well? So another resource that we have available to us is LinkedIn Learning. And I just went out and looked. There are 584 Google Gemini videos out on LinkedIn Learning. And so if you don't know how to get there, inside your Google in the waffle, there is, if you scroll down, there should be access to LinkedIn Learning right there. Yeah, so 584 videos. If you're looking for something specific to do, there it might be in there. You could take a look at that. So that's something we purchase for every employee every year.
Thank you, Bill.
Yep.
Let me just do Gemini Gems. There we go. Create custom AI agents with gems. So as you're leaving, please share with us, what are you most excited about? And have a great day. I will be sending out this recording, and hopefully I'll see you for the Notebook LM Zoom.